Hello, my name is Mike, and we're here in the kitchen today to talk to you about NoCry cut-resistant gloves. Now, these gloves are level 5 cut-resistant. It's actually 4 times stronger than that of leather. Now, you want to remember that while these gloves can handle cutting like this, or even holding the blade like that, you still really want to avoid any sort of puncturing like that, or cutting down on the fingers like this, because they're meant for really preventing any sort of mistakes. Now, I want to show you how to cut like a pro, and luckily for you, NoCry cut-resistant gloves will help prevent any sort of rookie mistakes. Before we get started doing any cutting, you first want to make sure you have a nice, stable cutting board. Wobbly cutting boards can result in your knife slipping and injuries happening. To avoid that, you want to place a wet towel underneath the cutting board to help keep it stable. In addition, you really want to make sure the blade of your knife is as sharp as it can be, because you may not know this, but the sharper the blade is, the safer it is. A sharp blade will cut easily into a food, while a dull blade will tend to jump around, and it's very easy for it to accidentally cut you. And this is why it's so important to have full control over your tools. Now, let's talk about how to properly grip your knife. If you put your finger on top of the knife, or you hold it too far back on the handle, you'll have a dainty grip, and then you'll really need to use NoCry cut-resistant gloves, as you're almost asking for injury. Instead, you should put your finger and thumb at the very back of the knife and wrap your other fingers around the handle. That way, you will have a firm grip and total control over your knife. It might feel a bit weird at first, but in time, it will seem like an extension of your hand. Now, the most common mistake that happens while chopping is laying your fingers out flat. Like this, you might not yet cut yourself when you have NoCry gloves on, but if you press hard enough, you might just cause some injury. Instead, you want to form a claw so that your fingers go in and the knife hits up against your knuckles as you're chopping. In this manner, your fingertips are protected the whole time and also gives you control over your cuts. Now, let me show you something I'm sure you've all struggled with: the elusive onion. Now, we here at NoCry shed no tears when cutting onions. Let me show you our secret. First, cut the onion in half through the root end and peel the outer layers. Put the onion down flat, make a claw shape with your hand, and make a few incisions horizontally into the onion. Turn it, but make sure the root is still holding everything together. Then, with your hand still in a claw position, make a few more cuts vertically. Then, turn it back and use your knuckles as a guide as you start chopping along. Just chop in a wave motion. And voila, you have a nice and even dice. When your food doesn't need to be cut into exact even pieces, just rest the tip of your knife on the cutting board and support it with your claw hand. And with your claw hand, continue chopping in a wave motion. And even when using a grater to create carrot shavings, the NoCry cut-resistant gloves work perfectly to protect your hands. The gloves also help protect you when filleting fish. So, you cut behind the head all the way down to the bone, and just on one side of the spine, make a very small incision, all the way down to the end. Let your knife do the work. You don't need to apply a lot of pressure if you have a sharp knife. Don't worry if it slips, that's the reason you're wearing gloves. It should just pull itself away like so. Is that simple or what? And then afterwards, just pull out the small bones with tweezers. Then, when you're all finished, you want to wash your knife by hand, dry it straight away to prevent any chance it gets dull. You never want to use a dishwasher. But the good news is, you can throw your gloves straight into a washing machine, making sure they're ready the next time around.